I went to juvenile hall at 15 for selling crack. Got caught up, got out, and stayed out of trouble.
Sorry to interrupt. How do you go from being a straight A student, sound like you had a positive influence at home in your mother, you were disciplined. How do you go from that to selling crack? Can you get back in, like, what was in your head at that time where you made that choice?
You know, to be honest, bro, if I would have never left the military base, my mom got a divorce when I was 13 or 12, right? 12, I think 12 or 13, roughly, maybe 13. I was skateboarding and BMXing before they had X Games. You know, I was into Trans World, Thrasher Magazine. You know, I knew all about Mark Gonzalez, Mark Guerrero, Rob Roskopf. I was a hardcore skater, hardcore BMXer, Mike Dominguez. I had, you know, both bikes and skateboard, and I'd go back and forth between which profession I wanted to do, even though there was no money back then. You know, I looked up to Steve Caballero, looked up to Tony Hawk, Natus Coppice. I was really into that scene. And on the military base where I lived at in the skateboarding in San Francisco, that was kind of like the culture. Now, when I moved, my mom got divorced. I moved back to a neighborhood that I had lived at before, but in a different part. That neighborhood, it was like kind of like thrown into like a cultural, like a cultural shitbox. And when I started seeing,
like economically speaking, or
it was different. Like my mom, you know, she had me and two. I had a brother and sister, 3 kids, single parent. You know, a lot of debt. She, you know, my grandfather helped us out, got us a house, but the house was in an area, you know, wasn't super bad, but it was a lot of drugs on the street, and that influenced, like, I was skateboarding and stuff, but that influenced gradually the skateboard, kind of like the basketball took the place of the skateboard. You know,
your environment changed.
I mean, it changed, man. So, you know, I'll be skateboarding, and it's pretty intense. I'm skateboarding in the hood, and there's a lot of brothers playing hoop. I knew how to play hoop too, but I'd be out here skateboarding in Jimmy Z's, and you know, I had my little hat on, skull hat on, and you know, it was like, okay, do I continue to skateboard and I hang out with all my little white friends and kind of like, you know, or I'm in school now and it's a little bit different. Do I get more, you know, do I acclimate into that? So it was a lot of decision making, and a lot of kids go through this around 13, 14. So going into high school, skateboarding kind of got pushed to the side, even though I was getting better at it. So me being one of these kids, because I am what I considered, I was kind of smart at the time. I'm like, well, you know, freshman year I had trigonometry, Spanish, and a couple other chemistry. So I had a pretty decent classes, but I'm thinking like, man, maybe, you know, the streets, I see what's going on. Maybe that's a way for me to make some money and get and kind of like dabble in that, and, you know, can maybe make some other moves. So I didn't know what I was doing, but, you know, I asked somebody, hey, man, you know, how are these guys making all this money, man? I see guys pulling out wads in the lunch line. I see these guys rolling these cars with music, and they're like, dude, they're drug dealers. I'm like, what are they selling? You know, I didn't know shit. Nobody in my family did any of that. So I didn't even know what crack looked like. And, you know, a dude told me one time, he says, Marcus, man, you don't want to mess with that stuff, man. I'm like, why not, man? I mean, dude, look at you flossing and stuff. He's like, man, you know, this is, you know, this life, you don't want to be involved in this, man. You should, you know, stick with what you're doing. You're a smart dude. But I didn't listen, man, because I felt like I knew better. And so eventually I found somebody that sold me $20 worth of crack. And I got $40 worth of crack for $20.
Well, here comes the entrepreneur, Marcus.
Here comes the entrepreneur. And you know, the first day I was hustling, and I made X amount of dollars, a couple $100 first day, and I was hooked. And so I got caught up in that, man. And you know, once you get caught up in that fast money and you see like what it can do, it was a program in my mind. So I always seen that gray area.